Los Angeles Lakers. We'll go to a wake-up call. Here it is. Luka's game winner from Mike Breen.
They're going to hold it for the final shot, try and win it here in overtime. Reeves to Doncic. Spencer Jones on him. Here's the double. Doncic on the drive. Step back. Puts it up. Puts it in with 0.5 of a second remaining. Some Luka lunacy here. The Lakers survive in overtime. And a thriller against the Nuggets.
Vince, I mean, look at this. They also had the Austin Reeves throwing it off the rim.
Yes.
5 wins in a row. And I know Charles Barkley said, I don't want to wake up Monday morning and see these shows talking about the Lakers.
Charles.
Guess what, Charles? It's Monday morning. We're talking about the Lakers. Vince, are you buying this win streak? Or are you saying, hey, let's hold on a little bit before we jump on this Lakers bandwagon?
Oh, my phone is Charles Barkley texting me, telling me to leave you alone.
Okay, all right.
No, but I do think the next couple of weeks, guys, will let us know exactly what the Lakers are made of. These 5 wins were at home against great competition, not great competition. These next 6, we got problems, baby, because you got Houston twice. You got to go and play Detroit, who's playing well, Orlando, who's red hot, Miami, who has a guy who can score 83 points in a game. This is going to tell us exactly who the Lakers are headed into the final stretch for the playoffs. They're third in the West right now, but 3 through 6 could be anybody. Houston could be a first-round playoff matchup. This is going to say a lot. I'm very fascinated.
Now, in the weeks leading up to this, we're talking, well, maybe LeBron leaves and goes to Cleveland, or maybe LeBron entertains New York. If the Lakers keep winning, Shams, what does that mean for LeBron's future with this team?
Peter, LeBron hasn't made a decision on whether he's going to continue to play. I think the feeling around LeBron James, around the league, is that he's going to go at least one more season. And a lot of how the Lakers season finishes will play a big factor into LeBron James' future, right? How does their season end? How does his season end? How's his health? How is he feeling mentally, emotionally, all that? But did we see that dive that he had in that game?
Bring it up.
Late in, to me, this shows and symbolizes where he's at as a player, his acts of really willing to do anything. And to me, it's self-awareness, right? And we've seen different parts of the season where Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves play really well together. Then Luka Doncic and LeBron James play really well together. How can all 3 of these guys get that chemistry going into the playoffs? LeBron James, guys, he's 41 years old. At this point in his career, I think everyone around the NBA would expect him to be a supporting cast, high-level player that can on one night be a number 1 option, maybe another night he's number 2, and on this type of night, he's diving on the floor head first for loose balls. To me, it shows awareness of where he is in his career.
Real quick, put a button on it. You look at this Lakers team, Marcus Smart's playing well. They look like they belong right now.
Yeah, I mean, Damian Woody's behind me, so I can feel him breathing down my neck. I think we have to be careful about this, but I think LeBron is playing the right way. Like Sham said, a supporting player, that's the right place he needs to be, especially if Luka Doncic is the Luka Doncic that we've been seeing for the past week or so.
We're talking.
Refer to Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic the way that he did on Saturday night in their overtime win over the Denver Nuggets. I mean, when you have a tandem in the backcourt that can combine for 62 points, 18 assists, and 19 assists and 18 rebounds, you're doing something right. And that's the version of Austin Reeves and Luka that you got. Austin Reeves was the one that forced overtime, rebounding his own intentional miss and hitting a floater with 2 seconds to go. And then Luka, with a half a second left in overtime, hits the dagger. When you have those types of players that have that ability when it comes to shot making, you're always going to have a chance. The only question is, was LeBron James going to get in the way of that? Were you still going to have some chemistry issues when it comes to the 3 of them being able to work together on the court at the same time in the critical moments of ball games? And it feels like Saturday night's win was a little bit of a prelude to the version of the Lakers that you could see in the postseason. But I think it all comes down to the standings at the end of the season and the Lakers being able to get to that 3 seed. Because if they can, then all of a sudden you're talking about them being able to match up against an inexperienced crew in the second round. And you could see a world where the greatness of Luka, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James can get them out of a long series. So, yeah, I don't think it's off the table to dismiss the Lakers' chances of being able to get to the conference finals. Do I think they can win an NBA title? No, I don't. But do I think they can be in the NBA's Final Four? I absolutely think there's a chance.
Yeah, I'm trying to discern whether or not I'm living in recency bias based on the last 5 games, but you have been seeing a different version of the Lakers recently. They have that momentum. Earlier in the season, we thought there's no way we'd be talking about them truly in a contenders conversation. But you beat the Knicks, you go out there and you beat the Nuggets, you beat a championship caliber team, and you are seeing this team come together in a different way. You're seeing improvements defensively, which has been something that was obviously a glaring problem. I just don't know yet if this is something that I'm ready to go all in on and say that I actually think that what we've seen recently is something that they can sustain.
Yeah, I don't know that they can get out of the first round. If the first round is going to be a matchup with one of, well, obviously they're not going to have 2 teams, but Minnesota or Denver, are you picking in a 3-6 matchup? If they're up against Minnesota, are you picking them? Which right now they are.
No, because Minnesota's a bad matchup. But would I pit them against the Nuggets? Yes, I would. I would pick them in a series against the Nuggets.
If the Denver Nuggets healthy lose in the first round,
Nikola Jokic ain't been healthy all season.
He still has triple doubles every night.
Sure, yes, but he ain't been healthy all season.
I just have a hard time imagining this team that everyone wrote off the last few weeks. And it's almost like when LeBron was out, it revived the team in a weird way. And now he's come back and he dove for that loose ball, like literally dove straight, like horizontal for that loose ball. And JJ Redick, his head coach, had this to say after the game about that big dive.
I told him after the game, I said, in 23 years of watching you play in the NBA and the 3 years I watched you play in high school, I never saw you make a full-out extension dive like that. And he said, you're right, I've never done that. It's awesome. I know he'll feel that tomorrow. But that's a winning play.
So is he playing a different role now?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%.
What is the role as you see it as a Lakers fan?
Well, I think LeBron is being deferential to Austin Reeves and Luka and allowing them to be the guys that are primarily responsible for initiating the offense and being the guys that are playmaking. So LeBron is in a role where he's looking to be set up as opposed to being the guy that sets up others. And I think that's a huge difference. And then also taking it more personal on the defensive end. Now, I know that's hard for a guy in year, 23, for LeBron James to be diving for loose balls night in and night out. But if that's what's required for this team to go on a deep run, then I think it serves him to show that he can adjust to being in that role. Because we're seeing a different version of LeBron than we've ever seen throughout his entire career. And I think him being accepting of that unlocks the best version of the Lakers. Now, I still think this is a team that has huge deficiencies on the defensive side of the court. But if Marcus Smart can play out over his skis the way that he has on the defensive end, if LeBron James can continue to adjust to this new role and the responsibilities therein, if you can continue to get DeAndre Ayton activated, then all of a sudden, as a Lakers fan, you can dream a little bit. You know, if you have a matchup in the first round against the Denver Nuggets or the Houston Rockets, then you feel good about that. If you have a second round matchup with the San Antonio Spurs that have little to no postseason experience, you feel good about that. Mm-hmm. You know, so again, a lot of it's going to depend on how the bracket falls, but if the Lakers are locked into their 3 seed, there are a lot of good possibilities for this team. And as a fan, I feel good about not wasting a prime year of Luka Doncic, even though I know the team has some issues because of LeBron James still being on the roster.
Even though he's being deferential and sacrificing and for the greater good.
No, I'm glad that he's doing it. I still think they have a ceiling because LeBron James on the defensive end of the court, there are going to be limitations. Mm-hmm. His athleticism is not what it once was. Now, he's out there fighting. He's out there playing with a requisite level of intensity, but when you start talking about playoff basketball every other day, you wonder whether or not this guy can hold up with that style of play on the defensive end.
Mm-hmm. The irony of all ironies is that everybody jokes around about Draymond's love for LeBron. Like, there's all kinds of internet memes and stuff about that. LeBron needs to play the Draymond role. In order for them to win, he's got to become the point forward, defense first, diving for loose balls. And while we saw it on Saturday, the idea of him doing that every game is almost impossible for someone of his age and his level of experience. Now, if he does it, and there's a new arc to his career, I'm not... What are you looking at me like that? I'm not getting to Jordan, if that's what you're thinking.
I'm just loving that you're having this big buildup where you're giving LeBron James credit.
No, credit? I'm saying there's no way he can do that. That's my point, is that, like, what you saw...
But what if he does? What if this continues?
How?
Even just in the immediacy of this, are you willing to give him credit for being deferential and for sacrificing in a way and for, as we just saw, diving for balls and trying to give everything he has at this stage in his career when he's not the central focus in order to bring his team together?
Sure. I want to see 10-plus rebounds, 10-plus assists, and great defense every night. I don't care if you scored a single point. You don't need to. They have guys who can do that. How is LeBron James going to play that role? That's the role the Lakers need, right? Next year, when they build this team around Luka, what they're going to find
What'd you say he needed again?
10-plus rebounds, 10-plus assists. I don't care about the points, and I'll take that guy, whoever the best player is.
If he's the second greatest player to ever lace him up, and he was All-NBA the previous season, why would you think he doesn't have the capacity to play that role?
It's just an every night thing.
Okay.
That's difficult for anyone to do, right? Like, take whoever you deem to be best 3-and-D wing in their prime and ask that person to do it every night, including to get to 16 wins in the playoffs. That's hard to do. And having the discipline. This is the beauty of the Draymond Dennis Rodman role. It's having the discipline of, I don't care if I score.
That's the hard part. That's the hard part.
I don't care.
Because when you don't touch the ball, can you have the same level of energy when it comes to rebounding and defense? Now, what activates guys on the defensive end is getting the opportunity to get on offense. If I get a stop on defense, that means I can get the ball on offense and score. That's the incentive for every player at every level when it comes to most sports. So if he's not scoring because he's deferring to Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic for a prolonged period of time, can he still give you what you need in the other aspects of the game? I know he has the skill set to do it.
Of course.
But does he have the mindset, and can his body hold up? Those are the questions that have to be answered. But in the small sample size that we have over the last, 9 games, you feel good about it. The Lakers have won 5 straight and 8 of the last 9.
Well, he hasn't played in all those.
I know he hasn't played in all of them, but I'm just saying there's a tremendous amount of momentum with this team, and LeBron James coming back. What's the one thing that LeBron James doesn't want to do? Interrupt the progress that the team has made, because then he looks like the bad guy.
No doubt.
Yeah,
So there is a certain level of motivation that he has to embrace this role, and we'll see whether or not he can do that over the course of a couple of months.
He is, he is scoring in so many different ways. He is being more efficient, and when you can get 60, 65 points a night from AR and Luka, this team is even more dangerous. If you sprinkle in 20 to 25 points from guys like Rui and Smart. They add Luke Kennard at the deadline, who provides more shooting. And then you have LeBron James doing what LeBron James does, is kind of all those little things, the point forward type of guy. The play, I don't even know if we have the video of it. There was a play where he absolutely put his whole body and dove on the floor at 41 years old. I'm like, it is ridiculous the kind of effort that he's still bringing to this team. So, yes, are they still not a great defensive team? No doubt. Are they a poor rebounding team, an offensive rebounding team? No doubt. But when AR can do what he's doing and Luka's hitting shots like this, and what's he averaging? 30, 38 points, 39 points over the last stretch here. Like, this is why this team has a chance, because they are so explosive offensively. Now they're going to have to score 140, 150 points a game in a playoff series, because they cannot get stops. But when they get going like this offensively, they're one of the best offenses in the NBA.
Yeah, they've taken a lot of heat, Lou, and it's been kind of funny to watch. I mean, they're sitting third in the West.
It's crazy. This team's third in such a good conference.
You wouldn't know the way we sort of speak of them in the collective we. Luka averaging in his last 5, 48% from the field, 41% from 3, almost 10 rebounds, 8 assists a game. Tim McMahon over at ESPN said, and I think this is actually funny because of the way we talk about basketball, that now Luka's actually underrated because of how much criticism he's been taking as of late. I kind of love the theory on this, Lou. What do you think?
Not buying. Listen, Beetle, Chandler, y'all already know my rule. You can't make $100 million and be underrated.
How about 200?
How about 200? Right. And especially if your name is Luka Doncic, you can't be an underrated basketball player in the National Basketball Association and play on the Lakers and average 38 points over a course of a season in stretches. You can't be underrated. I understand what the point that he's trying to get across is, it's kind of going under the radar compared to some of the media coverage and attention that some of these other guys are getting, but that's who the Lakers need Luka to be. They need him to be a dynamic scorer and put 30 to 35 on a plate every single night for them to be able to eat. That's who they have to be. I think the Lakers should lean into being a team and say, hey, We're a decent defensive team. We don't jump off the paper. We have our struggles. You know who we are? We need to be a high caliber scoring offensive team, and let's just lean into it. Let that be our identity. We need to go out and put 135, 140 on the board every single night for us to go out there and have a successful night and beating some of these top teams in the West and giving ourselves a chance to come out of the West and compete for a championship. We got to absolutely outscore everybody. And that's what Luka Doncic is. That's why you bring in somebody like him, because it's only one or two guys around. Well, actually, it's nobody in the world that outscores Luka Doncic and him being the leading scorer in the league. He's that type of guy. So if that is the makeup of your best player on your team right now, you got to lean into that being your identity. So I think the Lakers have found something, or I think they know something. They're just in denial about it and wanting to be a top-rated defensive team. At the end of the day, you have a top-rated offensive player, and in order for you to get the best out of him, you got to kind of make your team to a dynamic that works the best for him to get the best out of that. And I think in this last, 8 to 9 game stretch where he's averaged 38 points a game, they've been able to show that, and they've had success in them doing that. So if I'm the Lakers, I'm just leaning all the way into just outscoring teams, period.
Averaging 38 is wild.
And I think the narrative early on and throughout the season has been he's just putting up a lot of points on a very mediocre so-so team.
Yeah, it's fair.
Now they're winning, and he's scoring and being more efficient than ever. So when you start talking about those MVP standings, and you see kind of the Pistons falling off a little bit, and Cade Cunningham kind of having some stinkers, SGA and Jokic, it's still right there for him. Jaylen Brown's still been great, but how could you not talk about this guy in MVP now when you're looking at the third best team in the Western Conference, and they're loaded, and he's leading the NBA in scoring, and he's playing his best basketball right now down the stretch, getting them in prime position.
Can't do this.
I like it or hate him, you got to put him in the conversation too with MVP right now.
He is technically in the MVP conversation year after year. It's been quiet this time for the first time, long time.
They're third in the West.
I know.
It's one thing if they're 6 or 7, like they've kind of been flirting with. They're the third best team in the Western Conference, who we know is loaded.
They are third. They are in that sort of jumbled mess as far as record-wise, and they do have a pretty interesting 6-game road trip coming up. I will read to you who they will be playing. They got 2 against Houston, at Heat on the second night of a back-to-back, Magic, Pistons, and then they finish up with the Pacers, Lou. What do you want to see from the Lakers? Like, what can they prove on the 6-game road trip coming up?
Well, they just got to stay steady and stay where they are, right? Like, if you're on fire right now and you like where you are, don't lose your position at this point in the season. They've flirted with that third spot in the West for a lot of time in this season. They've been there for a lot of time in this season, and they've even slid all the way to 6 and maybe a 7 for a game or two. But now that I'm back in the position that I've consistently been in the season, don't give it up. And this is a schedule that's going to be tough, but you can get out of it and be 4 out of 6 or what do you have? Like these 2 games at Houston. You can go and get both of these or one of these. Miami is going to be a favorable game for them. Orlando, Detroit, Indiana is obviously going to be a favorable game. But these are great matchups for them. If you can come out of this 6-game road trip with 3 or 4 of these and continue to stay in the spot that you're in, I think that's a successful trip, especially going east. If you're going east and teams that you don't feel like match up to the Western Conference as strongly as they've matched up against each other, I think this will be a great road trip for the Lakers.
3-3 seems good.
The back-to-back in Houston is going to be interesting because that's a team that I think has been kind of right there with them, and that will give us a good idea of where they stand. Orlando's been a hot team. I think they've won 8 of the last 10. Detroit, we know how good they are, but I think this would be a nice test for them to go on the road. And if they can win 4, 5 of these,
5,
then we know exactly who they are and what they're capable of. But again, I think it's got to take it one game at a time. But I'm very interested to see those 2 in Houston.
Now you say 5. What would be the loss?
Detroit.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm looking at, and I'm thinking Detroit, and then that back-to-back, that's kind of tricky right there. Having back-to-back games in the same arena against the same team that can make adjustments one way or another for you, those are going to be the 2 tricky games for me.
All right, fair enough.
Make it 3, I'm sorry.
I think 3 and 3 is golden. Jokic, 27th triple-double of the season. Over the weekend, George Karl said that his MVP award should actually be 5 because he did lose. That was the controversial year with Joel Embiid. Everybody's arguing all the time. And then, of course, he lost to SGA. You buy on that? 5?
Yeah, and LeBron should have 13.
Also fair.
Like, it's not always the best player that gets the MVP award. And again, we always have difficulty, especially on our show. How are you voting? Who's the most valuable? Like, I still think Cade Cunningham is the most valuable player on their team. I think they're great with him. I think they're bad without him. So Jokic, to me, I think he's the best player in the world. I think he's solidified himself as that, even with how good SGA's been, how good Luka's been, Giannis. Like, there's so many great players in this league. But, yeah, I mean, Jokic is at the top of his game, and he's just so good. He makes everyone else around him better. Obviously, he's not the best defender, but what he does offensively night in, night out, with just triple-doubles in his sleep, is something that we've never seen before, ever, from that position. So, like, it is super impressive. And, yeah, I mean, could he have more? For sure, but it doesn't always go to the best player.
Well, the good news is for fans of the league, there are a lot of dudes every year that are really, really good, and that's why he doesn't have 5. So I got no issues with that. But I appreciate George Karl having his back. We are going to take...
Something genuinely remarkable has been happening with the Los Angeles Lakers, and the basketball world has been so distracted by overtime thrillers and game-winning fadeaways that it has almost missed the quieter but equally significant story building underneath all of that drama, which is that a team that could not win at home to save its season has quietly transformed itself into one of the most dangerous home courts in the Western Conference, that a player Boston essentially discarded, like last season's playbook, has become one of the most important pieces on a legitimate title contender, and that 2 names from very different chapters of Lakers history are being whispered in the same offseason conversation in ways that should make every fan of this franchise genuinely excited about what comes next. Tonight, that transformation gets its most consequential road test yet, because the Los Angeles Lakers are walking into Toyota Center for the first of 2 back-to-back games against the Houston Rockets that will go a long way toward determining whether this team controls its own destiny in the Western Conference playoff seeding race, or whether it spends the final weeks of the regular season looking over its shoulder at a team that already beat it once this season and would very much like to do it again. If that does not grab your attention, then what follows most certainly will, and you should hit that like button right now before we get into all of it, because there is a lot to unpack, and every single piece of it connects to the next in ways that paint a picture of a franchise that is not just winning basketball games, but building something with real and lasting substance. So let us start talking firstly about the transformation that has been the foundation of everything good happening with the Lakers right now, which is the complete reversal of their home record and what it means for where this team stands heading into the most important stretch of its season. Cast your mind back to the earlier portions of 2025-26, and you will find a Lakers team that was genuinely bewildering in its inability to protect its own floor. A team that could somehow go on the road and beat quality opponents, but then return to Crypto.com Arena and play like they had never seen the building before. At one point this season, the Lakers sat at 16 wins and 12 losses at home, which, for a team with championship aspirations and 3 stars on the roster, is the kind of record that generates uncomfortable questions about identity and competitive focus, and whether the bright lights of Hollywood are somehow a distraction rather than a motivation. That number was not where any Laker fan wanted to be, and the conversations it was producing were not the conversations anyone associated with this franchise wanted to be having in the middle of a season that was supposed to announce this team's arrival as a genuine contender. But then something shifted, and it shifted in the most convincing possible way, which is against the teams that matter most. The Lakers did not build their current 23-12 home record by scheduling soft opponents and grinding out ugly wins against lottery-bound rosters. They built it by going 7 for 7 in their most recent home stretch, and the names of the teams they beat in that run tell the whole story. Minnesota, New York, Denver, Chicago, Indiana, the Pelicans, and the Kings. These are not names that you pad your home record against. These are playoff teams, Western Conference seeding rivals, and in Denver's case, the defending conference finalists that required an overtime game winner to finally send home with a loss. The fact that the Lakers also sit at 19-13 on the road means that the gap between their road excellence and their home struggles has effectively closed. And what you are left with is a team that now enters every arena in the league as a genuine threat, regardless of geography. That is a profoundly different team from the one that was stumbling at home in January, and recognizing that difference is essential to understanding how real this current winning streak actually is. The playoffs require you to win road games in hostile environments, and the conference finals require you to steal games away from home when your own crowd cannot save you. This Lakers team has been doing that all season. Now, they can apparently do it at home too, which is the combination that championship rosters are built from. Thinking about it carefully, the timing of this home court emergence is as important as the emergence itself, because the final stretch of the regular season is precisely when momentum becomes the most transferable currency in professional basketball. And the Lakers are carrying more of it right now than almost anyone in the Western Conference. Now let us talk about what those 7 consecutive home wins actually mean in the context of the larger playoff seeding picture, because this is where the stakes tonight in Houston become genuinely and immediately significant in ways that reach beyond a single game result. The Lakers enter this back-to-back against the Rockets at 42 wins and 25 losses, sitting third in the Western Conference, with a half-game lead over Houston at 41 and 25. The Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs have essentially separated themselves from the rest of the field for the top 2 seeds, sitting at least 7 wins ahead of the Lakers, which means the realistic conversation for Los Angeles is about the 3rd and 4th seeds and the home court advantage that comes attached to both of them. A team that wins 8 of its remaining 15 games goes 50-32, which should be more than sufficient to secure at least the 4th seed, given the tiebreakers the Lakers already hold over Denver and Minnesota. The Lakers own the season series tiebreaker over Denver after Saturday's overtime victory. They hold a tiebreaker over Minnesota as well. That means if Los Angeles and those 2 teams finish with identical records, the Lakers advance to the higher seed, which in a conference where 4 teams entered the weekend, separated by a single game in the standings, is the kind of structural advantage that quietly determines playoff matchups without making a single highlight package. Tonight's game against Houston is specifically important because the Rockets won the first meeting between these teams on Christmas Day, meaning Houston currently leads the season series 1-0. And a loss tonight would give the Rockets a clinch tiebreaker that could prove decisive if these 2 teams finish with identical records in April. A win ties the series and sets up Wednesday's second game as a potential clincher for the tiebreaker in Los Angeles' favor. Win both, and the Lakers have effectively solved the Houston equation for the rest of the season, regardless of what happens in the standings. The math is clean, and the stakes are obvious. And the fact that Alperen Şengün is listed as questionable for tonight with a back injury changes the defensive and offensive calculus for Houston in ways that favor the Lakers, if the All-Star center cannot go. Without Şengün, the Rockets showed against New Orleans that their offense becomes predictable in ways it normally is not, leaning heavily on Kevin Durant isolation and hoping that Amen Thompson can convert the open looks that a defense collapsing on Durant creates. That is a more manageable defensive assignment for a Lakers team that has Marcus Smart and LeBron James and sufficient defensive versatility to account for multiple threats simultaneously. And it is a significantly easier assignment than the one that awaits if Şengün is healthy and operating as the hub of a Houston offense that ranked 4th in the league in defensive rating heading into this month. Speaking of Marcus Smart and what he means to this team, let us now have the conversation that every honest observer of this Lakers season deserves to have, which is the conversation about how the Boston Celtics managed to let a player of this caliber walk out the door for the price of a buyout, and how the Lakers managed to sign him for $5.1 million in what has become one of the most lopsided value acquisitions in the league this season. The Celtics made their decision when Brad Stevens was reshaping the roster for the championship run that ultimately succeeded. And from Boston's perspective, the trade made strategic sense at the time, clearing space and acquiring assets that contributed to a title. But Marcus Smart has spent every day since then proving that the decision to move him was more complicated than it appeared. And the version of Smart that has emerged in Los Angeles is not the version of a player in decline that the conventional narrative about aging defensive specialists tends to produce. Over the last 28 games, Smart has been shooting 39.0% from three-point range on 4.4 attempts per game, which puts him in genuinely elite company among shooting guards and represents a level of outside shooting that his career numbers did not predict, and that nobody in Boston apparently believed was coming. Against the Nuggets on Saturday, in an overtime game with the Western Conference seeding race directly on the line, Smart contributed 21 points, 5 steals, and 5 made threes in 35 minutes, providing both the defensive anchor and the offensive output that the moment demanded without requiring a single additional possession from the 3 stars who were already carrying the primary burden of that game. The steal of Aaron Gordon's pocket that led directly to a go-ahead layup in the final minute of regulation was the kind of play that only players with Smart's combination of anticipation, hand speed, and competitive awareness can make. And it was the play that kept the Lakers alive long enough for Austin Reeves' free throw miracle to materialize. Celtics fans who watch their team advance to the finals and win a championship have very little reason to feel regret about the direction their franchise took. And the Celtics' current roster with Jason Tatum returning to health makes them a legitimate title contender again this season. But Marcus Smart keeps proving them wrong, in the specific way that players prove franchises wrong when they are moved for reasons of cap management rather than performance, and the Lakers at $5.1 million are receiving a level of impact that would be exceptional value at 4 times the price. The quiet implication of all of this, and the one that deserves to be named directly, is that if the Lakers can find Marcus Smart in a buyout pile and turn him into a starting caliber contributor who hits threes at elite efficiency and provides the defensive intensity of a player a decade younger, what does that say about the organization's ability to identify and maximize exactly the kind of value that championship rosters are built from around the edges of expensive star contracts? That question points directly toward the next conversation, because the conversation about maximizing value around the star contracts leads immediately and naturally to the name that has been circulating in the Lakers' offseason discussion, with increasing frequency and increasing enthusiasm from the fan base that remembers what this player looked like in purple and gold the first time around. Alex Caruso, currently under a 4-year, $81 million extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder, is a player whose availability in the near or medium term is being connected to the financial pressures that championship success creates for its roster. And the specific mechanism being discussed is this. Oklahoma City won the 2025 NBA championship with one of the deepest rosters in the league, built by surrounding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams, with experienced veterans like Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. And that approach produced a title, but also produced a payroll situation that is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain as younger players reach extension eligibility. Caruso is the oldest player on the Thunder roster at 32 years old. He carries the largest veteran contract among their role players at $81 million over 4 years. And the Thunder are a franchise that has consistently prioritized financial flexibility as a core organizational value even when winning. If Oklahoma City decides that the path forward involves maximizing their financial position for the next phase of the rebuild around their young core, Caruso becomes the logical trade candidate, and the Lakers become the logical destination for a player who won his first championship in Los Angeles, who has deep personal and professional connections to LeBron James, and who represents precisely the type of elite perimeter defender that the space around Doncic and Reeves currently lacks. Caruso is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most versatile defenders of his generation, capable of guarding multiple positions with switching effectiveness that does not disrupt team defensive structure. And his 2 consecutive all-defensive team selections with Chicago before moving to Oklahoma City established him as a difference maker on that end of the floor, rather than simply a hard worker who plays above his talent level. The Lakers, who have been steadily improving their defensive identity through the Marcus Smart acquisition and the development of their rotation around Smart's leadership, would take a significant defensive step forward by adding a player of Caruso's caliber alongside the existing infrastructure. And the combination of Caruso, Smart, LeBron, Doncic, and Reeves in various lineup combinations would give JJ Redick access to defensive versatility that most Western Conference opponents simply could not match at the guard and wing positions. For a fan base that watched Caruso develop from an undrafted afterthought into a fan favorite whose energy and relentlessness define the culture of a Lakers team that eventually won a championship, the prospect of a reunion carries both emotional resonance and competitive logic, which is the combination that tends to produce the most enthusiastic responses from supporters who understand what a player means to a franchise beyond what his statistics communicate. And then there is the broader off-season architecture that ties all of these threads together and points toward what this franchise is actually building for the years beyond this season. Because the winning streak and the seeding race and the individual contributions of Smart and the potential return of Caruso all exist within a larger organizational framework that is being shaped by 2 non-negotiable priorities: keeping Austin Reeves in purple and gold, and building a roster worthy of Luka Doncic's explicit demand for speed in the championship construction process. Reeves is expected to receive a 5-year maximum contract worth $240 million from the Lakers this offseason, with sources indicating the franchise has zero fear of losing him to competing offers, despite multiple teams positioning themselves to pursue him in free agency. The confidence is justified by everything Reeves has produced this season, the growth into a true playmaker rather than simply a player who makes plays, the defensive improvement, the consistency that had been elusive in previous seasons, and the specific role he fills alongside Doncic that the 2-man net rating data has been validating all year. But keeping Reeves is not the ceiling of this offseason's ambition. Doncic made clear before the season began that he told Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick in May that he is not interested in the slow approach to building a contender. that he is 26 years old and entering his prime, and wants the roster construction to reflect that urgency, rather than treating his championship window as something that exists comfortably in the future, rather than demanding to be addressed in the present. The combination of that stated urgency, the projected cap space that opens when LeBron's contract and several other veteran deals expire, and the organizational intelligence demonstrated by the Marcus Smart acquisition all suggest a front office that understands what is being asked of it and has both the assets and the creativity to deliver something that matches the ambition of the player at the center of their future. The Lakers are currently in the middle of a 6-game road trip. Tonight's game against Houston is the first of them, and the manner in which this team handles the most consequential stretch of its regular season will tell you everything about whether what has been built is genuinely ready for the pressure that the postseason applies to everything that looks good in March. What we know right now is that a team that once could not win at home has won 7 straight there. What we know is that a player Boston let go for essentially nothing has become a starter contributing at an elite level. What we know is that the offseason conversations about Caruso and Reeves and the broader roster construction are happening with the backdrop of a winning streak that has changed the entire tone of what is possible. And what we do not know yet, the part that tonight begins to answer, is whether this Lakers team can take the momentum and the confidence and the tiebreakers and the 5-game winning streak and translate all of it into a road victory against a Rockets team playing in its own building with everything to gain and the season series on the line. That answer starts tonight at Toyota Center. And everything that has been discussed in the last several minutes is the reason why it matters as much as it does.